California Free Radio. I'm Mike Netter, and we are blasting this out all over the ecosphere, live on X, or Twitter as you used to know it, at Netter Mike and at taxfighter7.com, live on the LinkedIn feed under Mike Netter, and Scott's going to repost it, and on Facebook, not only my real name, Mike Netter, but also blasting on all of the Rebuild California groups. A shout out to Stephanie and the rest of the team helping me share this. And if that isn't enough for you, and you can't remember all that, like my name, for example, but you will remember after tonight that you are outraged, and that is where it appears on our YouTube channel. Everyone out there, it's time that we took a look not only at Gavin Newsom, which we do every week. Yes, I know gas is going up to $8.64 a gallon soon. Thanks, Gavin. And we know we aren't drilling for oil at all in the state, and that crime runs rampant in the street. Thanks, Gavin. And we know that homelessness is more prevalent. Well, not than voter cheating, but what the heck. But anyway, thanks, Gavin. And thanks for the voter cheating. But there is an elected official who, weird as it sounds, has been kind of creeping under the wire a little bit. And creeping under the wire.
Heavy on the creep, yes.
Yes, heavy on the creep, especially. Now, in case you wonder who I'm talking about, if you've ever seen the movie It's a Bug's Life or watched the original Star Wars with the bar scene, you'll know exactly who I'm talking about. That beady-eyed, expletive deleted who is Adam Schiff. And we want to focus on that a little bit tonight because there's a story, and we have a great guest tonight on our show, Chris Bish. There's a story that broke a few years ago, and this is going to be a shock to everybody out there, that the mainstream media kind of buried a little bit, that Adam Schiff has done a high degree of illegal activity. No, I'm not talking about the Russiagate hoax. No, I'm not talking about all the things that CNN put out there against Donald Trump. I'm talking about the things which Adam Schiff has done, which we've got the goods on. And tonight, Christine Bish is going to bring up some of those goods as being one of the chief investigator on it. I want to toss this before we bring in Christine to Scott and Kurt a little bit and let you give an opening blast.
Go ahead, Kurt.
Well, there's so much to talk about. You talked about the gas prices because of the refineries closing, Mike. That's going to hurt every Californian. But it's not just the state of California that wants to run up your costs. The city of Los Angeles has a number of expenses that they want to charge you if you're dumb enough to leave. And you may remember the Eagles song, Hotel California. You can check out anytime you want, but you can never leave. But it's amazing. You've got the mansion tax. You've got state capital gains tax. You've got all these escrow and document prep fees if you try to sell your house, business closure tax filings. You risk franchise tax board audits if you move out of the state, penalties for improper license cancellation. What about your car? Well, you better register your car in your new state, get rid of your California plates, your driver's license, because if there's errors, the DMV is going to try to charge you. Ooh, but what if you rent your property, Mike? Oh, you've got to register with the Rent Stabilization Division, mandatory inspections, rent control, eviction restrictions, a city business tax.
And you would think we'd have a senator of the United States, at least who represents the people, that would stand up against some of these things. And you'd think we'd have an attorney general, Kurt, who would investigate corruption when it takes place on the most basic level, but we don't. And I was remiss in my opening blast. I'm reminded by the producer. We had another epic event today as the U.S. starts to win under Donald Trump, where we have the first American Pope in 2,000 years. Now, full disclosure, I'm not Catholic. Full disclosure, I have been at the Vatican a few times, which is spectacular. But it's a win for America, regardless if you're Catholic or not. And don't forget, there's over 1 billion Catholics in the world. That the United States of America, for the first time in 2,000 years, and believe me, I know I've been alive for most of that time.
The Catholic Church has only been around since about 400 AD. So
Well,
kind of
close enough. Actually, the first
Well, the
one.
United States only from
250
1585.
years.
Who's counting?
But anyway, gentlemen, thanks for the trivia. A big win across for everybody today because it brings US, like Donald Trump is doing, into the limelight. Scott, give us an opening blast and let's bring in our guest.
Hey, I wanted to bring up again our high-speed rail project, our largest infrastructure doombuggle, yeah, in history. We had it's $100 billion over budget. It's 5 years past its completion date. We don't have a single rail down yet. Trump had a great line. His line was, "Look, I've watched a lot of stupid people build a lot of stupid things, but that's the worst cost overrun I've ever seen. What's happening between San Francisco and Los Angeles?" That was a
Well,
comment.
Newsom won a prize, Scott.
He won a prize. He is the most wasteful governor in the history of the United States.
Well, you know, it's interesting. First off, I think we need to correct it's not the high speed, it's the no speed rail, which I've heard.
Well, there's no rail either, so it's just what? It's
Right.
just speed.
It's a sidewalk. And Gavin Newsom, it's one of the few quotes of his that I actually agree with, whether you like it or not. Full stop. Because that's literally the high-speed rail. And Gavin says that a lot. Yes, indeed, as Dan, our producer, says, it's a boondoggle, it's a drag strip. And hi to Perry and anybody, remember, you can bring your comments in and we will see and comment on some of them. But I want to get to Adam Schiff.
5 years ago for $30 billion. And nobody wanted to write it 5 years ago or 10 years ago when they passed that initiative, the bond. Who was going to write it? Everybody had their doubts. But hey, if you can build it that quick, that cheap, and it can get going, go for it. Yeah, well, we saw what happened. He ought to just bury it, admit his defeat, and move on.
Now, for everyone out there right now, what I'm going to do is I am going to repost or retweet, as we used to say back in the old days, about a year ago, this story on Adam Schiff. For those of you out there who you're familiar with who Adam Schiff is if you're watching us, but I want you to be real familiar with what he has done. And we're going to go into that tonight.
That's Senator Adam Schiff for brains.
Bitch.
Hey, Christine.
Hey.
Christine, welcome to California Free Radio. How are you doing?
I am doing great. I am in lovely capital of California, Sacramento. I guess it's kind of appropriate. I'm standing in a parking garage while people can still afford to drive their cars.
They're going faster than the train.
I'm sorry, my connection must be bad again. And I thought you used the words lovely and capital in the same.
It is beautiful. It's just the people who are running it that are causing it to decay faster than time itself.
Christine, for our audience out there, before we get into the meat of it here, okay, can you tell our audience a little bit about you, who you are? We know you're running for Congress.
I'm running for Congress right here in Sacramento. I've been in California most of my adult life. During my childhood, I was all over the country, lived in New York, New Jersey, every place in between, and ended up back here to go to high school and met my high school sweetheart. We have 4 kids. Well, we have 3 kids now. A whole pack of grandchildren. I have a real estate office, and I love California. Everything about it, from the oceans to the mountains. Where I'm at here in Sacramento, we're 90 minutes from everything. And I'm not going to let Gavin Newsom, Adam Schiff, or any other politician run me out of my home, take me away from my family, and take me out of the place I love. So I know we have a lot of people leaving California, and I'm staying here to fight. Because what we have here in California, this liberal cancer, it won't stop at the Rockies. it will implode. It is coming in from New York to California. It will eat this country unless people like me are willing to draw a line in the sand and put up the fight to not just save California, but to save our country.
Absolutely. And it's interesting too. You and I met, actually, you were at our first meeting with Orrin Heatley in your real estate office where we cooked up
Yep.
the recall when nobody had heard of me. And a lot of people now probably wish they hadn't heard Christine, and a lot of people probably now wish they hadn't. Sorry, Democrats. So we've known each other a while, and I know you're running for Congress. But tonight, and we're going to put on the scroll out there below, Christine's is running for Congress up there. Adam Schiff was in Congress, so it's Bish for Congress. And I've got to hand it to you, Christine, before I'm going to go down a slight rabbit hole. You've got one of the best slogans in politics. Do you want to say it, or do you want me to say it?
We have a couple of them. Is it Bish, please, or send a Bish to Congress?
I love the bet one. The Bish is back. Okay,
The
because
Bish
I'm
is back. Yes, I am.
I'm an old Elton John fan. Kurt, even you remember that one. Kurt seems to be frozen in time, but what the heck here? No, there he is. So
There he is.
No, I'm here.
let's talk about this. I'm going to repost this story on Schiff right now. But for simple terms, because I'm not that bright, and most people do make fun of me. Let's start with what Adam Schiff did, which the mainstream press has ignored. And I'll cut in, and I want Scott and Kurt to ask some questions here.
Okay. Well, what I'm going to tell you is the mainstream press is covering a story. They're covering a story out of New York about an attorney there by the name of Letitia James. Now, they covered another story about a gal named Marilyn Mosby out of Baltimore, Maryland. Now, both these women have some incest issues going on. One is married to her dad, one's married to her brother, but we're not going to dwell on that. But it's so the people have a context about what we're talking about. And that is Adam Schiff, like the girls.
I want to stop you for 1 second. For everyone out there, Letitia James, I believe, is the one who brought charges against Donald Trump. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct. She manufactured charges and all of it got thrown out.
And now she's having charges brought against her in New York for
mortgage fraud,
which is the punchline of tonight's story. Okay.
Yeah.
And let's explain a little bit how mortgage fraud works, because we're going to track it right back to Adam Schiff.
Yes. Okay, so what mortgage fraud is, what it is most commonly, is people will put false information on a mortgage application, and they will do it for the purpose of getting a cheaper interest rate, often a lower down payment, and ultimately lowered property taxes. So what's in common with all three of these people? What's in common is they all filled out false information on a mortgage application. Now, what does that matter to everybody? Well, it matters because every one of them did federally guaranteed loans. See, we get an extra break on our mortgages and on our property taxes and on our homeowners policy if you live in the property. If it's a principal residence, your primary residence, you get a break. There's lots of benefits, because America, we're about home ownership. But with these three people, and particularly Adam Schiff, who took advantage of our system of promoting home ownership, both he and his wife lied. They put false information on their mortgage application, or maybe they didn't. And here's what it is. They bought a house in Maryland after Adam Schiff was elected to Congress in 2000. He did the back and forth for 2 years and decided, I'm going to move my family to Maryland so they can be close to me while I work. Well, he wanted a cheaper interest rate. He wanted cheaper homeowners insurance and cheaper taxes on the property. So what he did was he lied, and they said that they were residents of the state of Maryland in order to do those things. Or he possibly, because we were talking about election integrity earlier, he could have lied on his voter registration in California, where he claimed his one-bedroom apartment was his primary residence. And then he ran to continue to represent us in Congress and eventually represent us in the United States Senate, all while maintaining his primary residence in the state of Maryland. Now, if you did that, or I did that, or anybody else, we'd be looking at jail time. We'd be like the girls, Marilyn Mosby and Letitia James, who are subject to FBI investigations. Well, actually, Marilyn Mosby's already been convicted. So there is no safe place for Adam Schiff.
And Kurt, Kurt, in case you didn't know, I know you're a real estate agent, Christine, and Kurt, have a broker's license. Is that correct?
I have a broker's license and a law license in
There you
California.
go.
Yes.
I'd like to bring up the law license because I may need to use you for my defense one day. But as a broker, a real estate broker, if you were to collaborate with someone that they lied on their loan application, wouldn't you get your broker's license revoked if there was proof of that?
I could get both licenses revoked.
Okay.
Yes.
So
Yeah, just to clarify a little bit of what Christina was saying is, Christine was saying that basically Adam Schiff for Brains sat there and declared Maryland as his principal place of residence. And therefore he got these favorable terms on his property taxes, insurance, and his mortgage rate. But of course, the Constitution requires that you actually have to reside in the district that you represent. So he needs to be a California resident. So California has to be his principal residence. So either he lied on his voter information and voter registration forms and should not be registered, should not be representing us in the U.S. Senate right now, or he lied to the lender and violated state and federal laws in Maryland.
yeah, it seems there's a myriad of issues here. And this is more than an allegation, by the way. Christine, or Chris, sorry, just Christine on my screen. It's Chris to me. Can you explain how because you've been working on this for a number of years. This isn't like, this goes long before Joe Biden got involved. We'll get into that.
Yeah, this is a conspiracy theory, right? You actually have some.
Explain to us how you stumbled upon this, what you've done, and this information, which has been made public and covered by a number of publications. Explain how this all started.
Okay, well, it actually started in 2019. Now, 2019, I was running for Congress against a representative by the name of Doris Matsui here in Sacramento. And I had never run for office, didn't know anybody in politics, had no clue what I was doing, but I won the primary. And there were 6 people in that race, and California's the top 2. So I won that primary, and we're sitting in this little club where we were celebrating my win. And I was a little shocked, and I said to myself, okay, Chris, what do you do now? You won. And first thing is, well, where does Doris Matsui live? And I said it out loud sitting there, and that's what started it. So I knew she didn't live in Sacramento. So I used all of my background. Now I have a background not only in real estate, been doing that since 2003, but before that I was an investigator in a law firm.
Okay.
And my job, and I've repossessed cars, worked as a bill collector, broke auto theft rings. I've just done a lot of amazing things. So I took all of this background, this history, and this experience, and I've sunk it all into Doris Matsui.
And Chris, before you continue, I'd like to go on record and say I would like my 79 Pinto back that you took in the 80s, but we'll talk about that later. So you started in because, and I want to clarify this for everyone out there. If you're watching the show, and hi Larry, hi Perry, hi all these comments that we're getting, that when you look around and you don't ever see your elected official, okay? Doris Matsui was literally on milk cartons way back when, because I don't even think she'd been to the district since the good Lord invented cows. And this is what kind of you started down this path of looking in. Explain how you stumbled upon Adam Schiff.
Okay, so I stumbled onto a story. It was actually the McClatchy newspapers, and they published a story in 2008. There was an ethics complaint in the House of Representatives against Doris Matsui because she had claimed her primary residence was Maryland, that she took the tax deduction, but she was registered to vote in California. So what happened in that, what's her name? Nancy Pelosi was the speaker at the time. And so they tried to bury the story. Well, a group called Taxpayers from Common Sense found this complaint, and they ran a story in the McClatchy paper. But the McClatchy paper also identified two other people that had done the same thing, two other Democrats who had purchased homes in Maryland, were taking the homeowners exemption, and they actually pulled their paperwork, their mortgage documents, and said, you know, it was their principal residence. Now, we got the same excuse from Doris Matsui and from Adam Schiff, was that it was a mistake. They knew they weren't entitled to the homeowner's deduction on their taxes, not thinking anybody was really going to look into those mortgage documents. So they both paid restitution. They repaid the taxes that the tax break that they got in Maryland, and they repaid it to the state of Maryland. Well, then the two of them did something absolutely remarkable after getting caught. They both went and refinanced their houses again as their primary mortgages, which sets this whole thing in motion about pattern and practice, about a repeat offender. Somebody, they got caught, they got out of it, they knew they were scot-free, so they kept doing it over and over again because
So
nobody was going to go after them.
every time they refinanced, they declared it as their principal residence again in Maryland.
Correct.
And
Yes.
that was Doris, and also Adam Schiff. How many times has he refinanced in his house?
I think we're at 5 or 6 times. I'll have to look at 5.
Well, you're the one with the documentation, but he bought the house back in what, 2003 when he first.
2003, sold his house in California in Burbank, sold the house. Actually, he did something even against the law while he was in California. About 90 days before he sold the house, he took out an equity loan. Our lawyer, realtor, mortgage guy will know this. He took out a mortgage loan against his house in Burbank, so he had the money for the down payment on the house in Maryland. Then he turned around and sold the California house and moved to Maryland. He rented a 1-bedroom furnished apartment in Burbank.
To keep his so-called residency, his primary residence in
And
California.
then he registered to vote there. And every time he would change apartments in California, he would re-register to vote at whatever this fully furnished condo, 1-bedroom condo that he rented to keep up the charade.
Well,
And
now he actually bought a condo in Burbank now.
He did. He bought it. He bought it in 2009, and he was in a rush. He overpaid for it, and because he refinanced the Maryland house and then bought the condo because he got caught in that McClatchy report, in that house ethics complaint. He knew he had to get a place, but he couldn't give up that cheap mortgage being a primary residence in Maryland.
Oh, so he got a legitimate place in Burbank, even though it's 650 square feet. I mean, clearly he's got his family with however many kids does he have? 3 kids,
2.
4 kids?
Yeah, 2 kids.
So he's
And
raising in Maryland.
Wait, hold on. He's got 2 kids?
Yeah, they're adults
For
now.
everyone out there, a moment of silence for them. Back to you.
Yeah, they had to grow up with that as a father. What can you say?
And they went to school in Maryland. They were not here in California. Now, something happened last October when this story started to break again just before the election. And Adam Schiff was being interviewed by a Sacramento station. And they asked him about these claims that he had moved to Maryland, that was his primary residence. So we have the video of him saying, yes, I did. Everybody knew. I made no secret that I was moving my family to Maryland where I work. Well, that's his admission.
Spending most of his time to see his kids, right? But you can't sit there and declare that as your principal residence to a lender while still maintaining your principal residence where you're representing us, the voters, in Burbank.
Correct. And we have a whistleblower. Now, there's a couple of, when you look at the paperwork, you have the documents. So I have a whistleblower, which is one of the lenders who contacted me. And this loan officer told me how they got fired when they said, we can't do this loan. You're in California. You're a representative from California. So Adam Schiff got this person fired. And they did come forward. Yes.
And you got documentation from her on.
Absolutely. I have the signed document. But when you look at the mortgages where Adam Schiff provided false information, when you look at those grant deeds, this is the important part of it. Somebody wrote, either the lender or the title company wrote in ink, principal residence. And on the copies that I provide everyone, it's highlighted. That is very unusual. It says in the body of the contract whether it's a principal resident or not. That's what we like to call in the lending industry and real estate as CYA.
Well, we call it a lot of things, but fit for the air, we'll call it CYA.
We'll call it
We have
CYA.
an election integrity specialist, Larry, in our feed right here, and Larry's right. Residency is considered where your family sleeps. So we have a couple sides to this, and again, I want to kind of keep this simple a little bit here.
Yes.
To me, for everyone out there, I'm going to tell a quick story here. Full disclosure, Kurt, Scott, and I agree on many things, but Kurt and I disagree on baseball teams. And I'm a Padre fan. He's a Dodger fan. We'll leave it at that. And I remember back as a...
You mean the world champions,
Yes,
Mike, the world champions.
And back when I was a young man, there was a baseball player, I told this to Chris, named Nate Colbert. Big, dumb guy, could hit the ball a mile, played for the Padres.
I remember
went to jail for 5 years. 5 years. This is when ball players hardly made jack because he lied on his mortgage application. He probably didn't know he was doing it, but he got sentenced. And that's fairly common for those out there. Lying on your federal loan documents is a federal crime. And then we have the other side, this pesky little thing. Most people out there, if you're Democrats, haven't heard of this, called the U.S. Constitution. And in the U.S. Constitution, okay, they actually specify you must have residency in the state that you represent. So we kind of have two sides here, not to mention in the state of Maryland, he's getting a homeowner's exemption, which means he declared, I should get about a $7,000 a year break on my taxes. It's considered in Maryland. I live in Maryland where my kids go to school. And so if you live in Maryland, how you're representing California, we all want to believe Adam Schiff is in a 600 square foot apartment. And then we have the third thing where he lied on his loan applications. And as Kurt will testify to, and all of you out there, there is a money material thing to that, where, as Scott knows as an architect, and I know having bought and sold real estate and everyone out there, you get a better rate on your mortgage or your loan when it is your principal residence versus an investment property or second home. So this isn't like what Letitia James just charged Donald Trump with, saying, hey, we're going to make something up. Even though Trump's going everybody's hole. What's even more obnoxious, and Dan, this is a really good time to roll the video, it's Adam Schiff. And I want to bring in that video if we could now. Thank you, Dan. And let's just spend a second. Hold on before you roll the video. Please, if you have small children under 10 in the room, put them off to a place where they can't hear this. And if you have a pet under 50 pounds, please also move from the room, as we don't want the pet itself ending its life on its own. Dan, roll the video.
Who are concerned. If we are to maintain the position that the rule of law applies equally to everyone, then we really need to follow through with that. And I think, Judy, if any of your viewers were on the phone with a top state official trying to get them to effectively stuff the ballot box, they would be under investigation. And I feel, duty bound to to be open about that. I spent almost 6 years with that department. I venerate it. And I think we need to uphold that idea that no one is above the law, including former presidents.
Okay, so let me get this straight. Thank you, Dan. Adam Schiff, who has quoted over and over again, no one is above the law. And you guys have to excuse me, as you both know, I'm a little bit daffy, I'm getting old. I didn't hear him say in that quote, maybe somebody out there could look it up, where he says, no one is above the law, comma, except Adam Schiff. Did I miss that?
Yeah, you'd miss that because it wasn't
Ah.
said, Mike.
So,
Well,
go ahead.
I was going to say it wasn't said because it's not what he says, it's what he does. And a pattern and practice of behavior, he's a liar and he continues to do it. And, you know, a serial liar, because even when he got caught, he did it again. He believes he is above the law.
Okay,
And
so
I'm here to hold him accountable,
and this
and
is, by
I
the
will
way,
not stop.
and I want to be very, very clear here. We on the right, or the conservatives, sometimes I'll admit, rightfully so, there's a midget in the mailbox and it's a Democrat. We have some conspiracy theories on our side.
Oh, yeah.
Both the Democrats and the right wing, we both have a little bit of we have a whack division. It's required in politics. But you actually say, oh, we can't say midget, I've just been informed. Sorry about that. The little people, leprechauns. The
Little people.
The Democrats. There you go.
Move
So
on.
sorry, Dan has me cracking up. But you have actually the documentation from the whistleblower, and you've presented this documentation a number of times. Why hasn't, do you think, Adam Schiff, actually like Letitia James, been brought up on some kind of charges?
Well, I've got a lot of excuses that I've heard, that he's well connected, that lots of people, Republican and Democrat alike, do this in Washington, D.C. It's common practice. You know, I chased Doris Matsui back down to 1979 when her and her then husband, Representative Matsui, Bob Matsui, had done the same thing. People are getting away with it. Looking forward now, the only common denominator that I see is that the two gals that they're going after, or they went after, Marilyn Mosby and Letitia James, they're both Black attorneys. So I guess the white Jewish guy is getting off.
Well, that's the next question.
Actually, you asked a great question, Mike. Today, because the Democrats and Tom Tillis were stabbing Ed Martin in the back, Trump withdrew his nomination as the D.C. U.S. attorney and are going to put him in charge of government corruption investigations, and put Jeanine Pirro as the D.C. attorney general. And I think that the Democrats and Tom Tillis may be awfully sorry, because I think the two of them are going to go after these government.
Go ahead. Because Scott, I think you have a question right now.
So, Christine.
Yes.
We point out all the stuff that he's done that's illegal. It's like, so what? So what have you done? Have you given this to the DOJ? Have you given it to the FBI? Have you given it to the Congress Ethics Committee? What have you done?
Yes, all of that. So I've submitted it locally. I actually have a lawsuit that's in Yolo County Superior Court against Doris Matsui, the attorney that was representing me in that case. He died, so it's been sitting there for quite some time.
And by the way, we all have alibis. Go ahead.
Exactly.
Wait. So that was against Doris, though, right?
That was against Doris, but I show evidence about Adam Schiff in that case. So yeah. It's in the courts. I've submitted it to the Department of Motor Vehicles because of Motor Voter. I've submitted it to the Secretary of State in the state of California, who has ignored it. I've actually sent it to House Ethics Committee. And just most recently, when Letitia James was referred, it was through an agency, an FHFA. And that is the government body for federally insured loans that ensures that, these loans are done right and basically bust people for mortgage fraud. And
Right.
so I took
We
that
have,
whole file.
and by the way, last time he did this was what year?
The last time he did it, I believe it was 2016,
Okay.
because in 2020, he refinanced it after the story broke. Both he and Doris refinanced their homes to make Maryland their second home.
Okay.
But it was,
So we have voter fraud. We have Larry trying to chime in, so there may be a statute of limitations, but
nope,
let's
there is no statute on this.
got you. And I know you've been following this because I want to make clear to everybody here because there's a couple aspects to this. Scott, and I've been following this story and publicizing. Again, please go to my X feed to get the crux of it here. When Adam Schiff was in Congress, it went before the Congress, which was controlled by, a drum roll please, the Democrats. Okay? So when
Nancy Pelosi didn't do anything about it?
It's just shocking to everybody out there. Please make sure you have your cardio medicine handy at the next thing I'm going to tell you. And that in California, it's fascinating because the Attorney General in California has been controlled by, a drum roll please, the Democrats.
The
The
Democrats.
last time they prosecuted a Democrat, well, that actually was never. But let's put that down. Last time the Padres won a pennant, actually.
Yeah, but Newsom was the Attorney General in the state of California.
No. Newsom wasn't. He was lieutenant governor. But anyway, but hold on. In addition, okay, now there's action that maybe the Senate could take, but there's also action maybe the state of California could take. Because, Scott, I know you have another question on a guy who used to be president but doesn't remember it, which is?
Oh, Mr. Biden.
Yes. What did Mr. Biden
So
do?
Biden pardoned Schiff. Did it include things like this? Or
No,
was
it did not.
Related?
It did not. I verify everything right down to the fine print. The pardon that Adam Schiff received was for his participation on the J6 committee. At no point was he considered, offered, or granted a pardon for the financial crimes that he committed. Moreover, his wife, who was also on all of these mortgage documents and registered to vote in Maryland while claiming to be registered to vote in California while being a resident of Maryland, she didn't get a pardon either.
So, okay. Well, I'm still waiting to see what comes out on the January 6th hearings to find out why he needed a pardon. But now the next question is what's going to happen? Do you have to file a lawsuit? Is the DOJ for Trump going to pick it up? Do we have to have a local DA file a lawsuit? What happens?
Well, there's lots of possibilities, and I just love the venue part of this. And this is where the attorney will be able to chime in. Because they did what's called a MERS loan, it was not done just in one place, where the property is in Maryland. On a couple of the loans, the lender was actually in the state of Michigan. But on two of the loans, they were insured by Ticor Title of Florida. So any one of the lenders that that did this loan, if they were in the title company in Florida, then we have a venue in Florida. If they were in Michigan who did the loans, or wherever the other lenders were, I think there was one in Oregon, there is jurisdiction there, as well as in Maryland and in California. So, we have
if you're not the lender, if you're not the title company, you don't have standing to sue unless the DOJ picks it up or a local DA picks it up.
Oh, wait a minute, Scott. There's another option here. Another option. California has a private attorney general statute.
Oh my God.
So if you demanded that our attorney general prosecute Schiff and he refuses, then the private attorney general statute kicks in.
We're going to talk after the show.
Yeah, I'll hook you two guys up. I want to add something else to this. And again, as Adam Schiff has gained more and more power, and I want to remind everybody out there, If you think as him as congressman, you were, quote, are you ready? Getting the shit kicked out of you before, sorry, couldn't resist. We've got him for almost another 6 years. So it's important both for political embarrassment purposes and legal purposes. But let me throw in another angle here in addition to the Biden pardon. Scott, Kirk, Christine, you ready?
Yep.
That someone else that could be gone after, and by the way, you can't make this up. Adam Schiff's wife is named Eve. Yes, indeed, they were Adam and Eve, and they still are, okay? All due deference on this Holy Reverence Day where the Pope is an American. So you can also go after Eve Schiff because she signed those documents too, and she voted in California also.
You know, and you are absolutely correct. And I like to make sure I dot my I's and cross my T's. So I'm up in Sacramento, but last July I took a trip down to Norwalk and was able to get certified copies of all of Adam Schiff's voter registration forms dating back to 2000.
Say that again very slowly for our studio and live audience.
In July of 2024, I took a trip to Norwalk to the LA County Voter Registrar's Office and obtained certified copies of Adam Schiff's voter registration forms dating back to 2000.
And those
So-
voter registration, go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, so obviously he's claiming residency in California while he was lying to lenders in Maryland. The question still is, what are we going to do about it? Or is he just going to get away with it?
I've only been married once. Married my husband in 1987, but I stand by my comment to him.
And God bless the man, I've met him.
God,
No.
but if we ever get divorced, I will be the best ex-wife ever. I will haunt him like no one has ever been haunted before. Talk to Adam Schiff about it. I know more about this guy than he does.
So does that mean you're going to haunt him?
I'm not going to stop. And
Right.
every time he messes up. And what's great about this is I'm just a private citizen. I'm not a elected member of Congress yet.
Yet.
I am a private citizen. So the statute of limitations doesn't start until the date of discovery, the date that law enforcement actually takes a look at this, physically looks at this. That's when the statute of limitations starts. So it's not like you can get away with a crime. You know, he committed this crime and it's been 5 years, 10 years. You can't go after him. With mortgages, it's based on the date of discovery. So we have 5 years from when somebody in law enforcement takes a look and acts.
And by the way, I want to add a couple of layers to this. Sorry, Scott, for everyone out there to understand, okay? There's the original crimes that Adam Schiff did, which are documented, date of discovery, okay? But since no one has actually filed anything like asking his kids under deposition, who are now adults, there's also additional crimes if he lies under oath in deposition, okay? So and by the way, in case everybody doesn't remember, and I'm going to be really frank and upfront, probably guys promise not to tell our 5,000 viewers about this. We want to ruin Adam Schiff's career. And if you remember way back when, elected officials got their careers ruined for just hiring a housekeeper that they didn't put on the books for something that they did 20 years ago with blah, 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 okay?
Right. So the media covers for him now.
Right. And so reality, and the reality is this issue has to be pushed not only for legal reasons, and I want to go down a quick rabbit hole here, that God bless Donald Trump for getting Alcatraz ready. I think it'd be nice to see Adam be the first guy in there, but that's just me. That seemed almost too good. We're going to have you on the show, and it's like Trump goes, I got Alcatraz ready.
We should do a live from there.
Yes, we should. Actually, that's a really good do. We should do otherwise we can do that. We can actually.
I'll be there.
We could just be out on a boat on the water with Alcatraz.
No. We want to be standing in the cells with
Yes, we can stand-
paper
you can actually
cutouts of all the
yes.
criminals.
I say, you think we can get Clint Eastwood to give us a little tour?
I'll give him a call.
there you go.
So,
The point. Go ahead.
So I was going to say, Larry's pointed out another option is, the grand jury. The grand jury, Kurt would know better than me, but they have the ability. Obviously, they review what the DA brings to them, but I think they have the ability to investigate some things on their own. It would be interesting if you could find a grand jury that would be interested in picking up the case. And frankly, I think any DA or any grand jury in California would have standing because he's now a U.S. senator and he's defrauded all of us, right? Where is his principal residence? Or is that past tense? Now that he's got a new loan and he's not taking the homeowner's exemption in Maryland any longer, so now it's a past sin that we found out about that he's corrected.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because Letitia James, remember, those houses were long before she was in the position that she is in. Now, Marilyn Mosby, that's another one. She was convicted last year. She lost her law license.
I think it's just poetic justice that Letitia James is getting this problem because that's what she went after Trump for.
Hold on. What a great point. I want to add that to the list of things. Kurt, you made a great point earlier. Please mark down this day in history. We have an American Pope, and Kurt made a great point that you could lose your law license, and it's 2 in a day. You could use your law license and your broker's license. And if you want to really rub it at Adam Schiff, not that we do, okay, maybe we do. He's also a lawyer. He could be disbarred for this kind of thing.
He should have been disbarred for January.
The problem with that, Mike, is the California State Bar is so liberal, they're not going to.
I know, but
against him.
But the Citizen Attorney General is huge.
The private attorney general. Yeah.
Yeah, the private attorney general. I'm excited. I just want to get off this interview and go to work.
Okay. So we're gonna go ahead and let you go here in a second and finish it up. But
I'm kidding.
That's okay. We've kept you on. We appreciate your time. I want to talk again, spend a few seconds here for everybody out there. We're going to sum it up, but spend a few minutes again and talk about your campaign because you are gutsy. You're continuing to run. The Bish is back continuously. It's still my favorite slogan. All credit to Eldon John. And talk about where you're running and what people can do for you, not only in helping your run for office, but also help, in this thing against Adam Schiff. What can the people out there watching this do? Okay.
People across the country, and I've had amazing support. So what you can do is go to bishforcongress.com. That's BISH for Congress.com. You can make a donation. We also have links on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, getting ready to launch our TikTok channel. So those are all ways that you can help out. Now, there's people watching who may have friends who are attorneys or district attorneys, or even attorney generals. I'm happy to share the information that I have because short of those voter registration forms, every document that is in this investigation is public record. There's no question where it came from, how I got it. I'm extremely transparent. But this is what I've been doing in my spare time. So if you're thinking about someone who's running for Congress, imagine the waste, the fraud, and the abuse that I will uncover when I have a full staff. Get out of the way, Elon Musk. Christine Bish is coming to Washington.
God bless you.
All right, Christine, I've got a question for you. Tell our viewers, many of whom are in California, the cities that are included in your district where they can vote for you.
It is half of Sacramento County. The district is pretty compact. So it's going to be the area of Natomas, Rio Linda, the famous place that Rush Limbaugh used to visit, Alberta, Antelope, Citrus Heights, Fair Oaks, Carmichael, Rancho Cordova. So really the best way to look at the district is we cover the Sacramento airport. We go over to the old McClellan Air Force Base. Then we go back over to the closed Mather Air Force Base. So it's everything above the river. Now in this district, we have a real shot, everybody. Democrat voter registration is below 42%. The majority are the non-Democrats, the 28% Republican, the 21% no party preference. We can do this. You don't have to change parties. You don't have to pledge allegiance to whatever critter. I just need you to get out there and vote for change, and vote for someone who is going to end this culture of corruption in California and Washington. And I do not discriminate against Republicans and Democrats.
And she's running.
If you break the law, you break the law.
And the incumbent in that seat is Doris Matsui. I presume she's going to run for.
Nope. That was before redistricting. Now I have the pleasure of running against a man by the name of Ami Bera. Now, Ami Bera is a medical doctor. And Ami Bera, we got security wanting me to get off. I'll be right done.
Okay, we're right off.
Real quick, Ami Bera is a medical doctor. And Ami Bera was the official surrogate for Joe Biden, which means when he went on the Saturday shows and the Sunday shows and talked about how lucent and how he agreed with everything that Joe Biden was doing, he was the medical doctor that was doing the cover-up.
And Chris, before security hauls you off in handcuffs, which by the way would make a great TikTok video.
It would if you want to take me in.
I want to add there that don't ever think things can't be done. Taking down Adam Schiff, taking down a president like even happened in the Nixon years. Christine Bish was in the room when in late 2019, a group of 6 of us, ragtag idiots, decided to go after Gavin Newsom with the recall. Chris, I'm going to let you go before security makes you go.
You know what? This guy's doing his job. I'm appreciative that he's working. And
God bless you. Thanks for all the work you do. Again, it's out on the X feed. Go ahead and log on off and we'll continue onward. Remember,
bye,
let's go stick it to Schiff. Thank you. See you later, Christine.
Bye, Christine.
So everyone out there to sum it up.
Well, gentlemen, that is the kind of candidate we need, hard-nosed, that's going to get things done in Congress and not want to go on vacation most of the time. Yep. There you go.
And you guys got to realize this is a really big story. It caught fire again, not necessarily due to my X feed, if you will, but my post got picked up by a major publication in America, Conservative American Thinker this week, and also ended up, and I found this out after the fact, on some podcast somewhere that got about 100,000 views. It's just that the mainstream kind of won't push this out. And I've seen the documentation. We'll post it again. It's kind of like Adam Schiff saying, I didn't shoot the guy. Pay no attention to the video with me with the picture of the gun actually shooting the person. It is absolutely disgusting. And yes, you're right, Stephanie Adam Bear. She's running against the devil and she's chasing the devil and Adam Schiff, who, again, nobody is above the law. You piece of shit. How can you say nobody is above the law when you yourself have been caught red-handed doing things that if Scott, Kurt, Netter, the average American did, they would go to jail for, and you did it at least 3 times. Scott and Kurt roll with a couple other stories here.
All right. You talked about the gas prices, which are ridiculous. Scott mentioned earlier, very important, 5 House seats awarded to Dems in the 2024 election probably were from fraud. And that we talked earlier a couple of weeks ago about 20% of the votes in Orange County, California, probably being cast by illegal aliens not eligible to vote.
Yeah, well, and if you look at things like Michelle Steele's seat, she lost by a couple hundred votes. Even Scott Baugh, if you take out UCI, which I'm sure there's even more fraudulent votes at UCI, he would have beaten David Min. So, we have, until we can get the cheating under control, I don't know how we're going to actually, keep the country going in the right direction. When you have
Well,
people,
Scott, we did have a win. We did have a win in Sacramento this week.
yeah, tell them about it. That was fantastic. We just basically shamed them. But
Yeah,
go ahead and tell
the
us.
Republicans were trying to force the Democrats to make it a felony to solicit a 16 or 17-year-old, and they were shamed or exposed into capitulating. Tell us about that,
Well,
Scott.
They tried to do this last year, I guess, and they got it passed for all of the other ages except for 16 and 17-year-olds. And the reason is you got the gay lobby led by Senator Scott Wiener that believes that this is a law that's unfairly applied to gay people. Now, if he's assuming that gay people are more guilty at soliciting 16 and 17-year-olds, I'm not part of that community. I don't know. Maybe that's the case. Maybe per capita, it's certainly the case. But for them to sit there and say, Scott Wiener's line, believe this or not, was, you shouldn't put somebody in jail for a felony because he wants to pay his buddy $20.
Hold on. Let's say that. I want to say that again. This isn't about the gay community. This is about somebody, regardless of age, paying somebody for sex, male or female. That's
Right.
what Wiener was actually came out and defended. It's like,
Right.
hey, I didn't know. I didn't hear Scott Wiener say. I got to jump in on this because I've never heard such an absurd quote in my life. I guess what Scott Wiener wants to propose is a dollar cap. Scott Wiener, sit down with us. Let's negotiate it. Is $5 too little? Is $10 too? I don't even know the going rate.
Yeah.
I'm like,
He's not talking about the age being too young. He's talking about, if it's just $20, you should let him go.
I was amazed by that statement. And full facetious disclosure, full facetious. Who maybe wasn't hoping that you could pay somebody in high school to have sex? It doesn't work, and it's wrong. Okay, so
Are
it's
you telling me you tried that when you were in high school?
yeah,
And it didn't work?
What the heck? I neither deny or
The statute of limitations has run out on you.
yes, exactly. So I mean, the fact that Wiener would come out with this, you're like, and this isn't what this is about. This is actually about the appalling of the Democrats, and kudos again to Shannon Grove. And Stephanie brought up a good one I want to jump to in a second here about voter ID. Kudos to Shannon Grove that she actually got this through last year. Now the Democrats are saying we weren't going to talk about 16 and 17-year-olds. No,
Okay.
she had to put it through to carve out an exclusion and talk about it this year.
Right.
Yes,
So,
Wiener, go ahead.
so tell us the victory that we had, Kurt. We talked about the problem. They shot it down. What happened?
Yeah, they're going to capitulate, and it will now be a felony to solicit a 16
So basically,
or 17-year-old.
we, the people, put enough public pressure on these idiot Democrats that you shouldn't be selling 16 and 17-year-olds for sex. And if you do, you go to jail as a felony.
It's not a felony yet. Let me correct you. They agreed with a little bit of language back and forth because I've been posting about this obnoxiously. They agreed, they flipped the language around so they could try to bother the Republicans about voting no. They, in effect, agreed to take it up at a later date. And and by the way, next week we have Kira Davis on, a big time podcaster, former, and she's on Sirius Radio tonight. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. So the Democrats, I want to talk about this before we go too far along here, is the Democrats are getting kind of desperate. They actually flipped the language around so the Republicans had to vote no, and Democrats voted no, which was basically said, do you want to not table the bill, kind of a double negative without going too deep. And then they put out Facebook ads this last week The
Oh,
Democrat Party did,
well,
saying, "Oh, look at all the Republicans that voted no," and the Republicans are like, expletive deleted, expletive deleted. This is behind the scenes to me. They put out, no, that's not exactly how it worked. The Democrats in California are, well, not that they weren't before dirty, but they're getting desperate and dirty as more
well,
Californians wake
you
up.
you can tell how bad it was that even Facebook pulled those ads, wouldn't let the Democrats run them anymore because even Facebook realized that they were fraudulent. They're basically accusing Republicans
Which
of
is a
wanting
great
to have sex with 16 and 17-year-olds.
which is a great drift into another subject I want to bring up. Rebuild California, my political PAC, Orrin Healy. We're getting behind voter ID. I'm working with Carl DeMaio's team, and Carl and I have had our differences in the past to get voter ID on the ballot. And there will be the two major initiatives I'm going to pound week after week going forward for action item are school choice, known as the CEO Act, and voter ID, so we can have legitimate elections that people believe in. These will be coming out in September, October, but we need to gather the troops. Because are you, Curtin Scott, ready for a shocker?
I'm surprised. What?
The Democrats are going to lie, cheat, steal at a much higher level in California than they ever had before because they're losing nationwide. And because of the war, we're under Joe Biden, they were able to push out people like Kamala Harris and Adam Schiff into Washington and higher offices. They're now on the defensive in California as we, the Republicans and conservatives, kind of march back in and wake up the state of
Well,
California.
one of the things that backs up what you're saying too is you have to remember that when it comes to voting Democrat or Republican, the Democrats just blow over the Republicans. Republicans are hardly a footnote, right? But when it comes to issues, the California voters are a little bit more conservative, and that's as evidenced last November with Prop 36, which basically overturned the let them out of jail Prop 47 that was passed 10 years earlier. And basically, hey, what a novel concept. We want to keep criminals in jail. And it passed like 70-30. So they know that if these initiatives go on the ballot, it's going to take a whole lot of cheating to overcome the will of the people because they want voter ID. They
and,
want
and
choice in education.
and a lot more corruption too. And I should rephrase that, Netter News tomorrow. And by the way, if you don't subscribe to Netter News, it's free. And again, as I say every week,
I support that.
you have that kind of money. Okay, we're coming out with the LA scandals tomorrow that aren't talked about a lot to do with the nonprofits, and we're coming out with another article written by my buddy Brad Jones at Epoch Times that, Kurt, I'm going to toss to you about the price of gas in California that was refineries closed by the beginning of 2026. We could see
2026.
gas hitting $9 a gallon in California. And no, I haven't lost my marbles. Well, maybe I have. I'm still doing this for free. But the reality is it could hit $9 a gallon. And if you're that,
All right,
ahead.
so Mike and Scott, let's say that happens. What do you think the reaction of voters will be? Will there be a tax revolt like with
I
Proposition
think what's
13?
going to happen is that's another reason that we say, good lead into what I want to go as we drift into our last 10 minutes here. We have to understand, we have to keep Californians engaged, whether it's about Adam Schiff, whether it's about Newsom, engage. So when the elections come along, the initiative, the action items that we speak of, Kurt, to answer your question is the average California will get ticked off. We have to show them why they need to be outraged, and on a continuous basis, what the left wing of the Democratic Party is doing in California. That's one of the importance, gentlemen, of why we do this show. That was the lead for one of you to talk. Scott, go to you.
Rim shot. So do we have any predictions on gas prices? When will we hit $6 as an average cost per gallon? I mean, you have some stations that are selling for $6 now, but I'm talking about average cost. Like this morning, I bought gas at a cheap gas station for $4.30 a gallon. Uh, but that's the cheap station. Most of the stations out there are selling it close to $5. So
My humble opinion.
give me a date. Your prediction:
So
six
the
bucks.
date is going to be around September, October of this year because the refineries are shutting down toward the end of 2025. Dan paid $5.39, as he put for premium today. And what the oil companies are really out to do, and not when I say teach California a lesson, they want to teach the government a lesson. And they're like, screw you. They don't want to move out of the California market. But you, and by the way, the workers who are losing their jobs at the refineries, they're going to be like, hey. So as supply constricts, you're going to see the gap rise relatively fast between the national price going down and the California price going up. That gap is going to rise rapidly. I think we will see
Okay.
$6
Fall for
fall.
$6. When do we hit $7?
We're going to hit $7. My guess is around Thanksgiving, and we'll be hitting at $8 around the first of next year.
Right in time for an election.
But my question is, what will the consequences be to the Democrats? What political price will they pay?
Here's what we have to do.
It's going to be $8 a gallon during an election year.
Well, hold on. This is where I'm going to go back to the recall roots a little bit when I talk about initiatives. We can't wait till the June primary. The Democrats' biggest fear right now is, oh, excellent. Thank you, producer. Put it up again. The QR code, fund the fight with the Rebuild California page. Put that up there again. Thank you, Dan. I know my eyes are going. I was going like this. Help us fund it. Rebuild California. Help us fund these initiatives. We need to keep the heat on. Proposition 36, we helped them out, was done by the people. The recall of Gavin Newsom that got on the ballot. Maybe not a marvelous idea, recall of Gavin right now, got on the ballot because of the people. What we have to do is keep this pressure on during these off years to keep it in the public limelight. That, Curtin Scott, is what we have to do. We do need donations. This show costs money. Rebuild California helps pay for part of it, okay? What we do costs money, and we do it cheaper probably than anybody else because we're not part of the wing of the Republican Party that sucks a lot of money out of the wallets with no results. We get ready for this. We get shift done, and we are going to continue to get shift done as long as you, the people watching this, help us push this. Social media is free. This show is not. These petition drives are not. They cost $40,000 to $50,000 just to get them started. But we know how to do it for less money. That, Scott and Kurt, is what needs to be done. We need to keep the people pumping on a constant basis. Gavin Newsom will find something to let the air out of the balloon, just like he did with recall rebates, which actually were our own money coming back to us, to distract us right before an election. We're in a war here. We are in a political war. And Kurt, whichever one of the two you are, okay, you have put out another article that says it's expensive. If you're saying, well, I'm going to move out of California, I'm going to move me to Tennessee, Idaho, Montana. It's not that easy fiscally to escape California. Kurt, spend a second on that because you put that article out this week too. There's the mansion tax, the escape tax, go ahead.
Well, the problem is that the Franchise Tax Board is predatory. And their position is that they want to tax you even if you leave California. Completely unconstitutional. The state of California cannot tax residents of other states. Just can't do it. So a lot of very successful people I know, and I might have advised.
Which isn't the
this,
two of us, by
can't
the
say.
way.
They have sold their real estate holdings years ago in California. They sold their residences, but they established residence in another state, even though they were still living in California, so that they had an argument to the franchise tax. Well, I've had a house in this other state for 10 years. I was selling information systems in the early 1990s to manufacturers. Manufacturers were leaving California then. There has been a steady flow for over 30 years of businesses out of the state. Tesla, right? Relocating. Chevron, relocating. And it's not just the taxes, though. It's also the crime. And look at just the crime stories this week in California. ICE agents served a warrant in Irvine to somebody who was doxing agents. The three guys, remember Woodland Hills, great neighborhood. I went to high school there. A lot of expensive $1 million plus homes still in the San Fernando Valley. Three guys were arrested for a home invasion in Woodland Hills. All illegal immigrants. They just arrested.
Oh, by the way, it was a home invasion that I believe resulted in a homicide, if I remember correctly, one of them, wasn't it?
Yep. Well, it's the Valley. I mean, the Jackson 5 home on Havenhurst in Encino, 2 acres, been there for over 50 years. There's home invasion robberies in that neighborhood now.
And it used to be they would avoid homes that are occupied. Now they're going into them and just taking the occupants hostage, tying them up.
Well, or they're they're risking meeting their maker. Then you remember that Gavin Newsom signed a law that allowed non-U.S. citizens to become police officers in California. Well, there was a Belmont police officer named Felipe Gomez, a Brazilian citizen, and he had a history of domestic violence, and he just raped a mentally ill person. A person who's
so we know there's a lot of nauseating stuff going on. We know the left is continuing to pass onerous things. To answer Kurt's initial question, again, what we need right now, and by the way, if you're watching this right now and you're on a computer or you're next to one has a cell phone, I want you to go up on the most important thing. I'm going to sound like a TV preacher. The most important thing you can do right now to save the soul of California is to grab your phone, go to that corner where that gentleman is with the ocean behind him, and scan that QR code and at least bring up the Rebuild California side. Because I tell you, brothers and sisters, that the only way to save the soul of California is with some donations to keep us on the air. And go and scan that QR code right now and help spread the word about Rebuild California. Help spread the word about Scott's social media. Help spread the word, everything that we can do. I just got the most amazing notice. Adam Schiff is right now live on X. And as soon as you scan that code and we finish our show in about 2 and hit Adam Schiff up and say a few nasty things on his X feed, but we're going to go ahead and bring this to. There's a lot going on.
Wait a minute, Mike. I've got a question. Very important. I've got a Mike question here. You're from San Diego. As you know, our Navy SEALs train in Coronado with the Navy base. And they're being forced to train in raw sewage coming up from Mexico that Gavin Newsom and the Democrats who run California have not stopped. And mayors are asking him to declare a state of emergency.
This has been going on for 40 years. That Mexico's sewage is spewing over. Again, full disclosure, when I was a young man, I used to live in Imperial Beach. And if you take a look at me and go, wow, that wasn't last week, I was a young man.
That explains it. That explains it.
And the sewage that has been spewing over from the Tijuana River. And by the way, if you're an environmentalist, don't worry about bitching about climate change. Get your ass down. I'll say it too, and take a look at the sloughs, which are a nature preserve in Imperial Beach. Scan that QR code. Help us fight things. Kurt, thank you. Scott, give me a closing blast. I want to roll the end here.
Hey,
I got one
Hit
that's
me.
important. Let me just slip this one in. California's Obamacare website covered California, used a special tracker to capture users' personal health information and sent it to LinkedIn for a marketing
Yep,
campaign.
violated our own.
And now Kevin Kiley, our good congressman from California, is asking for a federal investigation because that
violates
federal
federal and state transparency laws. That's another one. We can't even get to all the stories tonight. Scott, hit me with a closing blast, and I'm going to end here.
Hey, Adam Schiff is the one that was out there saying nobody is above the law, and yet he puts himself above the law. So really what he's saying is no Republican is above the law. Democrats, we can do whatever the heck we want to do. We as taxpayers and voters in California need to get rid of Adam Schiff. So join together, donate some money and rebuild California. Let's sit there and see if we can put the screws to Adam Schiff.
Remember, everyone out there, no one is above the law, including Adam Schiff, and nothing is beneath the California Democrats. So help us continue to claw back this state. If I'm going to give you one more second, scan that QR code, do everything you can. Right today, I put out a website. We need money to keep going. Freedom isn't free. And if you don't want your freedoms quashed anymore in the soon to be again great state of California, participate. We are California Free Radio. We will be back next week and continue to fight with Kira Davis. God bless you and good night.